Smith County is now in session. County Mayor Jeff Mason is presiding.
Thank you, Dan. Junior, would you open us in prayer?
Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, thank you, dear Lord, for the day. Dear Lord, be with us as we go throughout this meeting. Help us make the best decisions for the county. And dear Lord, be with us as we go throughout our daily lives. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. See, so I know it's a little weird and different tonight, but kids had come out to get their health screenings and there was no ball game tonight, so they all came and they were late getting done, but that's okay, we'll make it work. So sometimes you just roll with the punches and move on. So Stacy, you do us a roll call.
Yes, sir. Lydia Gregory. Helen Bowes. Here. Terry Gibbons.
Here.
Billy Bass. Greta Kirby. Here. Charles Kent.
Here.
Ron Pascal.
Here.
Lynn Brown. Here. Scotty Berry. Matt Enier.
Here.
Cordell Smith.
Here.
Danny Irizarry.
Here.
Stephen Leash.
Here.
Eddie Stout.
Here.
Casey Elrod.
Here.
Justin Malden.
Here.
Javen Cripps.
Here.
Tommy Bain.
Here.
Junior Fields.
Here.
Connor McDonald.
Here.
Teresa Bush. Here. Danny Huff.
Here.
Ed De La Rosa. Yes.
We do have a forum. Thank you. Is anyone signed up for public comment?
No, sir.
All right, nobody signed up for public comment. All right, item number 6 is the approval of the minutes of the March 24th meeting. I will take a motion to approve those.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion to approve, Junior Fields, second Stephen Lynch. Any questions, discussion, or corrections on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. All right, item number 7. At this time, I will bring Mike Nixon, our planning secretary, our planning director, up to open the public hearing and discuss this.
Okay, I want to open a public hearing. This is something that the Planning Commission wanted brought forth to change some of the regulations from permitted uses in the industrial zone to special exceptions. And by doing this, the Planning Commission, I'll speak for them, thinking that some of the permitted uses needed to be special exceptions, which have to be approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals also. So at this point, I'll be more than happy to field any questions. If not, I will close the hearing. Hearing's closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, in your package, you have a resignation letter from Commissioner Eagle. From Commissioner Erica Eagle. Sorry, you have to close enough. Scary things. So she did brought me a letter a couple weeks ago. She was not happy that she had to, but there was reasons that she just decided to resign. So we thank Eagle for her service. And in the commission, I think 7 years, or will be 7 years in September. And now that you've been made aware, we will run ads for reappointment in paper and get that position filled as soon as possible. The other announcement I have is the base commission meeting is the fourth Monday will be Memorial Day. And then our resolution says we move that to Tuesday, but I know for a fact I won't be in town that week, and others won't either. So, and in the past, we've skipped a May meeting and had 2 in June where we did budget amendments the first couple of weeks and maybe did a budget presentation, and then if the budget's ready, you vote on it the last Tuesday. So you've got the 3rd, which is the week after, and the 9th possibly. And I talked to Connor today, they may have the most of the budget done by then to bring in to show it. I'm not speaking out of turn, I'm sorry. So on the 9th, so you would he would bring, the budget committee would present you the budget that night, just for questions and comments, and then come back if it's still, everything's ready. You know, we stay on timeline, vote and approve in June, so. Is the 9th work, or for that? If so, I take a motion to amend that resolution one time to move that meeting to June 9th.
I'll make so motion. Second.
All right, I have a motion second to move the May's meeting to June 9th at 6 o'clock to be determined, because there's another vote coming. Location to be determined because there's another vote coming out on that. So, all right, so I have a motion and second on that. Any questions or discussions?
I will not be here because I'll be out of the country. So let y'all know.
Okay, the 9th. Okay. All right, so.
Everybody's okay with that.
Well, it gets, you know, everybody knows from now till August, it gets crazy with vacations and plans and such. So, you'll be back to the 23rd or whenever. So, on the, you won't be here, Eddie? Okay. Okay. Well, the 3rd. Okay. All right. So the 9th is this. So I have a motion to move that, to move the 26th, May 26th meeting to June 9th. Any questions or discussions anymore? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, it is moved. All right, now we move on to amendments to the agenda. You did have a public hearing just a minute ago on the zoning action. I need to add that approval to 11A2 for approval. And then the bond presentation, I sent you that email on Friday, and we're going to talk about that tonight with no action taken tonight, but just a presentation, and then come back in June and vote on that. So I would take a motion to add zoning action to 11A2 and the bond presentation to 12 under other business.
So moved.
All right, have a motion to Matt Inyard, second?
Second.
Second, Junior Fields, have a motion and second to move those. Any other items that need to be added to or taken away from the agenda? And to approve the agenda? The motion was to add those two and approve the agenda.
Correct.
All right. I have a motion and second. Any questions or discussions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those are added. Thank you. All right, number 9 is the county mayor report. We did get the contract back on the courthouse. I have signed it. It is sent to Nashville. We're waiting on them to send it back. I have been in contact with the engineers. They're working on bid specs for HVAC and windows. So as soon as that gets in, gets bid, then we'll know kind of where we're at and the next step forward from there. That's basically all I got tonight on that. Any questions for me?
Have any idea of any timeline on those projects, the courthouse projects?
No.
And I know it's too early.
No, but like I said, we still haven't got the official signed contract back, and I just want to make sure. But hopefully, we'll get it bid, start getting it bid here, and then hope by fall maybe the windows and air conditioning is done. My hope. Yes, Justin.
What's the spend date on that grant?
It's COVID fund, so it's October 26th. So hurry up and wait on that. So, any other questions for me? All right, seeing none, you have your financial reports, and Ms. Daisy's here if you have any questions for her. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Item 10 is your committee reports. You can see those. Any questions on those? All right, seeing none, item number 11 is new business. Item number 1 is a TCRS employee contribution rate. It is moving the contribution rate to 6.1, and this comes with a positive unanimous recommendation from Budget and Finance for next year's budget. So it is from 6 even to 6.1, and that is to make up to keep up with the minimum.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, a motion to approve and a second. Any questions or discussions on this approval?
Mayor, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Is it the employee's portion or is it the county's portion?
County's portion.
And the only reason I'm asking because it says employee contribution.
Employer rates, if you look on the form, page 46, the employer rates, change to 6.1 is what we're changing.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that that was, everybody knew that it was our part, not the employee's part.
Yeah. Any other questions, discussions on that? All right, seeing none, we'll roll call that, please.
Helen Bowes,
Yes.
Terry Givens,
Yes.
Billy Bass,
Yes.
Greta Kirby,
Yes.
Charles Kent,
Yes.
Ron Pascal,
Yes.
Lynn Brown,
Yes.
Matt Inyard,
Yes.
Cordell Smith,
Yes.
Danny Irizarry,
Yes.
Stephen Leish,
Yes.
Eddie Stout,
Yes.
Casey Elrod,
Yes.
Justin Malden,
Yes.
Javen Cripps,
Yes.
Tommy Bain,
Yes.
Junior Fields,
Yes.
Connor McDonald,
Yes.
Teresa Bush,
Yes.
Danny Huff, unanimous.
Thank y'all. All right, item number, the next approval is the Smith County Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation is moving the four items 3 and 4, 10 and 11 under industrial to special exceptions where it has to go before the Board of Zoning Appeal. We did have a public hearing and no one was in opposition or for. At this time, I will take a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion to approve, Junior Fields, second, Matt Inyard. Any questions, discussions on this? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? All right, motion carries, thank you. All right, on to item B, resolutions. Items 1 and 2 are budget amendments for you. At this time, I will take a motion to group and approve, or we can vote on them separately.
Motion to group approve. Second.
A motion to group approve, Justin Malden, second, Junior Fields. All right, any questions or discussions on these two resolutions? All right, seeing none, roll call, please, Ms. Stacy.
Helen Bowes,
Yes.
Terry Givens,
Yes.
Billy Bass,
Yes.
Greta Kirby,
Yes.
Charles Kent,
Yes.
Ron Pascal,
Yes.
Lynn Brown,
Yes.
Matt Inyard,
Yes.
Cordell Smith,
Yes.
Danny Irizarry,
Yes.
Stephen Leish,
Yes.
Eddie Stout,
Yes.
Casey Elrod,
Yes.
Justin Malden,
Yes.
Javen Cripps,
Yes.
Tommy Bain,
Yes.
Junior Fields,
Yes.
Connor McDonald,
Yes.
Teresa Bush,
Yes.
Danny Huff,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. All right, item number 3, resolution 4/2025-03 is an intergovernmental vehicle transfer from the general fund to the landfill. That is taking Director Crockett's truck and moving it to the landfill, and I'm going to install him a new truck.
Motion to approve.
Approved, Matt Inyard, second. Connor McDonald, any questions or discussions on that? Seeing none, since it's money, we will roll call.
Helen Bowes,
Yes.
Terry Givens,
Yes.
Billy Bass,
Yes.
Greta Kirby, Charles Kent, Ron Pascal,
Yes.
Lynn Brown,
Yes.
Matt Inyard,
Yes.
Cordell Smith,
Yes.
Danny Irizarry,
Yes.
Stephen Leish,
Yes.
Eddie Stout,
Yes.
Casey Elrod,
Yes.
Justin Malden,
Yes.
Javen Cripps,
Yes.
Tommy Bain,
Yes.
Junior Fields,
Yes.
Connor McDonald,
Yes.
Teresa Bush,
Yes.
Danny Huff, unanimous.
All right, item number 4 is resolution 4/2025-04. It is to change location for the Smith County Commission regular meetings going from the Ag Center to the Courts and Jails facility. This was brought forth and asked for Commissioner Leish, so at this time I will take a motion to approve that change.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second, have a motion and a second to approve. All right. Ron, pass it. Ron, that was you, right? All right, I have a motion and a second. All right, any question or discussion? Mr. Strickland? There's one right there.
Hello. I am vehemently opposed to this. I look out here tonight, everybody's got stuff in front of them on a table. We can't do that when we go over there to that other building. There are two big tables. Who's to say you get to sit at the big table and you get to sit at the big table, but I sit up in a jury box and don't even have anywhere to put my pocketbook except on the floor. If I want to bring a drink, I have to put it on the floor. So I'm vehemently opposed to this. Now, I am someone who is all about hearing. If these folks can't hear us, then we need to reconfigure this so that you can hear us. My recommendation would be we put county commissioners over there in a semicircle, the audience be over here in a semicircle, the mayor be in the middle, and voices can carry from that direction. Secondly, if somebody is in the audience and they can't hear, I believe with all my heart and soul, if you raise your hand and you can't hear, Mayor Mason will see you and address that. At home, if the folks at home don't think they can hear, that's because we don't have 10 microphones in here. And one of the reasons that we don't have all of those microphones in here is because they have to stay on all the time. They'd be hot. And I would hate for one of my private conversations to be on Smith County Insider, as many of you would probably not want that. Justin is in the video and audio business as well. I think, again, in a semicircle with some acoustic abilities that are coming across here. So I make the recommendation that we not move over there and that we address for a couple of months, and let's just see if it sounds any better the way that I recommend it. Because nobody in this room is any better to sit at the big table and have a place to spread out their papers and their pocketbook and their drinks than anybody. And there's only 2 tables over there. So again, I'm vehemently opposed to this, and I recommend to amend the motion that for at least a couple of months we try another configuration before we go over there.
I don't think that, and the resolution doesn't describe formation or anything like that. So there's, unless you amend to add that language, which I don't know that you want to tie yourself to formation of tables in your resolution. So I don't know that amending. I think a yes or no vote to the current amendment would probably be appropriate to stop the moving, unless the will of the body is to tie yourself to a
Try it for a couple of months is what I said.
I know.
Okay.
And if it fails, that's exactly what we'll do. All right, any other questions or discussions?
Long-term plan to get back to the courthouse.
Absolutely.
But we'll have tables over there individually at the new courthouse.
Yes, that is the goal. Tables,
Not sitting on top of each other.
cameras, all that good stuff. Okay. All right, any other questions or discussions? All right, seeing none, we will.
So she did make an amendment, unless she wants to read it.
I'll second.
So what exactly is your amendment so that we're clear?
Before we move over there, between now and when 2026 comes, let's try this different configuration over here and make sure. Commissioner Lish is the one that brought it up. I'd say some folks wanted to hear different. So I'm just thinking let's try another configuration. Of course these people can't hear us good. They can't hear me right now because my back is to them. So let's try another configuration for a couple of meetings and then revisit it. Because I think we will all see that you can hear a little better. But also we need to talk a little louder when it's our turn to talk. That would also help as well.
Mayor, just so I might add, I didn't mean to ruffle feathers. The only reason I said it because some people came here and I just thought it looked more professional. It does not matter to me whatsoever.
Okay. Right, so I have a amendment to the motion. So if the amendment passes, though, there's no need to vote on the resolution, right?
Because the amendment was to delay the proposed move for 2 months. essentially,
I'm
right?
gonna withdraw the amendment and let the motion stand as it stands.
And then vote, yeah,
They
okay.
voted up or down. Okay.
All right.
I'm good.
All right, that's, all right. Any other questions or discussion on the resolution to move the meetings? All right, seeing none, since we need to make sure that we'll do a roll call.
So how do you want to do this? Yes, move?
Yes,
no, don't?
move, no, or yes to, yes for the resolution, no to vote it down.
Helen Bowes?
No.
Terry Gibbons?
Yes.
Billy Bass?
No.
Greta Kirby?
No.
Charles Kent? Ron Pascal?
Yes.
Lynn Brown?
Yes.
Matt Inyard?
No.
Cordell Smith?
Abstain.
Danny Irizarry?
No.
Stephen Leish?
Yes.
Eddie Stout?
Yes.
Casey Elrod?
No.
Justin Malden?
Yes.
Javen Cripps?
Yes.
Tommy Bain?
No.
Junior Fields?
Yes.
Connor McDonald?
No.
Teresa Bush?
No.
Danny Huff?
No.
Noes, 8 yeses, 1 abstention. All right, 11 noes, 8 yeses, and 1 abstention, so that motion, the resolution fails. All right, item C is a list of notaries. Take a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Casey Elrod, second by Junior Fields. Any questions or discussions on this? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Notaries are approved. All right, item number 12, other business. Johnny, you gonna come up? John, this is where y'all come in and play. So I sent you an email Friday with this. Like I said, we're not gonna take action on it tonight, but it's important and time. This gives you, we'll present it tonight, and it'll give you time to think on it before you vote again in June. So I'll just start on the very front part is so Smith County Landfill needs to build a new 10-acre Class 1 MSW cell, and then we need to do some blasting in a 9-acre area that will help build the 10-acre cell, but will also increase the space in the second cell behind this one. And then also, this one really, we need to build a bridge across the stream crossing back there because apparently there's animals or fish or something in there that you can't just put tiles in there. So we need to build a bridge to get into that river bottom to get our soil, because that's where our soil for our cover and building the side is. And this is one that I'm really, we're going to close and cap out approximately 27 acres of this landfill. This, I was figuring it out last night. This landfill has been in Smith County since 1987. Johnny, if I'm wrong, you tell me. We've not closed out or capped out any portion of this landfill. With the closure and capping that we're going to do, number one, it takes, I gotta be nice, it gives, that's one less thing TDEC can't kick us over. So that's about as good as I can put that. Number two, it will, once it's done and complete, it will drop our post-closure to under $10 million. And that was a number that our engineer gave us. So that helps that. And then so that's our 4 projects we want to do. You'll see the key benefits is reduces our financial liability, which is the post-closure. And I hate that Frank Wood right here maybe say that get done, but because that was something he always wanted done. It improves our infrastructure and capacity, gives us a brand new 10-acre cell and then a 9-acre cell right behind that. Protects the environment and positions the landfill for long-term success, because once we do the 10-acre and the 9-acre, then right behind it, we'll be working on the engineering and the testing on a 65-acre cell, which will ensure the future for Smith County's trash and that. So one thing, the next thing I gave you was the landfill financial summary. If you'll look at that, you'll see that over the past 7 years since Johnny and I basically been here, Our expenses have gone up, and you'll see some numbers are big, but that's where we were building sales, and our revenue has gone up, and that's something we're really proud of on that side. We have not borrowed, Johnny and I, have not borrowed a penny. There was $2.8 million borrowed when I came into office. We used that to build one sale, or a portion of one sale, and then the rest of that, we've spent over $11 million in building sales in the last 7 years. 2.8 of that was used to, from the borrowed funds, and the rest of that we paid for in cash from out of the landfill. So we've built 2 MSW sales and one C&D sale with that money, and the C&D sale is more than paid for itself, and these 2 will pay for themselves as we get longer into it. We've worked and got about a $3.5 million fund balance right now, even after all that we've done. So this helps us in the future. One thing we are in the process of, this is year 5 and a bunch of contracts, so we are renewing contracts with our counties that do provide us revenue. Those contracts are going up, the tip fees are going up on that one, so we'll increase our revenues on that. Once this new cell is built, we'll be able to increase our capacity. Johnny gets calls at least once a week, people begging to bring us more trash. But right now, we're in a race to get this new cell done and built where we can get out of where we're at. And so we're not in a position to take new customers right now, and we're actually trying to throttle one of our bigger customers back with some sorting and diversion on that side to help with that. And so we need to. And then after speaking we had a meeting last week with TDEC, and they said, of course, our permit, we think we'll have a permit somewhere mid-summer, but they said we could move ahead with some stuff and go ahead and get started on this sale. So our engineer is working on getting a bid package for all 4 packages together, and so we'll get that bid out and get started. And that's why we need to, we don't have the cash right now to do this. So we're proposing to do a $15 million bond issue. I don't like borrowing money, but this is something that we need to do. It gets us set on a really good track. We can, you got some cash flows in there. You see, we can fund the debt, we can service the debt, and it don't hurt us because, I mean, even the revenues right now we're good, but Johnny and I both know that once this new cell's open, our revenues will go back up because we'll be able to take some of those reductions back, and also we'll get new customers at a higher rate, so that'll help on that. One thing, and we've said this many times and I'll say it again, Smith County's tax dollars does not go into the operation and the running of that landfill. There is not $1 of Smith County taxes that goes in there. All that revenue comes from contracts that we have with surrounding counties and private businesses. Smith County residents can go to the convenience site 7, 8 times a day, 7 days a week, and it don't cost them a penny. And we don't charge it to convenience sites for citizens, and no tax dollars goes into running that landfill. So that's where we are. That's the need. That's the plan with it. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. John Warner. He's going to explain to you how the bond issue works and all the good details on that. He's much smarter than I am.
Thank you, Mr. John. Yes, sir.
My name is John Warner. I am the municipal advisor for Smith County. I work for a company called Cumberland Securities. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to work with you on this. What you have before you after presenting this to the Finance Committee are a couple of options for the county to consider on how to fund this. I want to go just first of all of what these 2 options look like, and then I'll answer some of the questions you might have as to why you might want to consider one option over the other. And it all really comes down to not only the execution of the sale of the bonds, which will be publicly traded general obligation bonds, but they will also be a means of possibly earning some of the money while it's sitting idle in your construction fund to help cut some of your interest carrying costs that you'll incur between the time you receive it and the time you actually extend it on the project as being described by the mayor. If you look on the first page, on page 1, That is the current existing debt that's being carried by the solid waste fund. And if you look at it visually, it's a little bit over $350,000 a year. And then around 2030, you pay off a large capital outlay note that was taken out in 2018, and then you have the remaining balance of the general obligation refunding bonds that you did back in 2020, where it, along with some other refunding bonds we did with the general fund, the county saved approximately about $1 million on interest expense. So you're finally paying off that last piece of debt. Again, very manageable, and again, as being forecasted by staff and being forecasted by the mayor and the people, they know that you have the revenues right now as they stand, and you only expect to receive more revenues once you get these projects underway and completed. The first option on page 2, option number 1, we sell $15 million worth of bonds in one sale. We are anticipating, now this is all estimated, we don't know what the interest rate is going to be, but based on what we see in the marketplace right now, for general obligation bonds, we're expecting around a cost, true interest cost of around 4.25% for a 20-year amortization. And so you'll be looking at roughly about a payment of $1.13 million a year. Again, supported solely by revenues from the solid waste fund. No general obligation tax dollars are on the line right now. They are going to be sold general obligation, meaning they will be supported by the full faith and credit of the county, but we're doing that simply because you get a better rate selling them through use of the county's credit as opposed to selling them specifically from the revenues exclusively of the fund. Okay? So please keep that in mind as we're going through this. Be confident in the revenues that you have coming into this. Okay? And you can see on pages 3 and 4 what those revenues look like when you add that to the current existing debt through 2045. Now, these bonds will have, we're anticipating probably a 7 or an 8-year call. What does that mean? That means in 7 or 8 years, we can re-look at the bonds at that time, and we can either refund them and save some money if the markets look like that, or number 2, we can take some of the excess funds and we can start paying off some of the debt in advance of this schedule. And you can do it at any time of the outstanding bonds left out there. So if you wanted to, you could start paying on the back end and pay those bonds that are still outstanding in 2045, 44, 43, whatever the case might be. And you can do that as long as this particular series is outstanding. Does that make sense to everybody? You can refund the money after that 7 or 8 year period, anytime you want to, unless, of course, you've done something with that bond and you refunded it, then the premise resets itself. Okay? Page 4, that's just an indication, it's just to remind you all that you all have nothing but fixed rate debt. Once we sell these bonds, these rates will not change. They will stay the same forever until we retire all the debt. On page 5, this is a little bit different. Instead of selling one $15 million, we're thinking about possibly selling, in this scenario, option 2 $7.5 million bond issues. One in 2025, another one in 2027. And the reason why we do this, and I'll explain this here in just a bit, has to do on how quickly it's anticipated you can spend the money down. And I'll get to a little bit more detail to that. You'll see in the first tranche that we're selling on page 5, $7.5 million, 4 1/4, which is what we discussed in the previous one for the single sale. And then we increase that by 50 basis points to 4.75 for the second sale in 2027. Now, what it does provide for you, and I'll skip some of this, and if you go to page 8, you can see on 7 and 8, you're going to have some you'll have less money being paid up front because you're not going to have the entire $15 million out standing. Then after the first couple of years, when you have both of them online, then you're still going to be back at the $1.15 million, give or take, roughly speaking, debt service, once you have both issues outstanding. Now here's the thing I would like for you all to consider, and it's a good question. How quickly can you spend the money down? Because if you can spend it within a 2-year period, however you might do it, a single sale or you have the 2 individual sales, if you could sell it within a 24-month period and you meet certain targets within that 24-month period, where of that money you borrowed, 10% of it is spent in the first 6 months, 45% in the first 12 months, 75% in the first 18 months, and of course all of it being gone in 24 months. If you can do that, you can take the interest proceeds you have from the money that you're spending, or that you have in the construction fund, invest that, and let's say right now in the current market you're earning around 5%. But you're only allowed to keep, normally speaking, 4%. That 100% difference is called excess earnings, which the county can keep legally, which helps you offset some of the expenses that you might have of the interest expense. So that's a good thing, and that's, as your municipal advisor, we'll work with Daisy and with the county on making sure that we're meeting those targets and that sort of thing. Now, if you don't hit those targets, you can still keep, in the scenario I just gave you, the 4% earnings. You just can't keep the whole 5%. And any excess earnings you may have received during that time, you just simply rebate it back to the United States Treasury. It's no penalty, it's not a big thing. It's a real simple calculation, and we get that thing done. But we do find an interesting opportunity for clients that do borrow money. So as your municipal advisor, because we want to look out for your best interest, we want to make sure that you're aware of this opportunity, and that we, as your municipal advisor, will help you, try to get that accomplished, okay, and work our way through that. And that's basically it. That's the reason why we have the 2 separate options. The project is clearly needed, and it seems like the revenues are already there, so I don't feel, from your perspective, there should be much of a consideration as to being able to afford this particular one, particularly since the funds are already clearly dedicated from the landfill. Now, this anticipates a September sale in 25 and 27, and then the first principal and interest payment being due that upcoming January, the next fiscal year, or the next calendar year. This is just a model. And as I said in the Finance Committee, all models are wrong. But some models are useful. So it just kind of helps you kind of get the idea of the timing of how we want to do things. And so as soon as this commission votes their approval to do that, then we will be in a position to start getting to the marketplace. And I'm just assuming that if things move along as being discussed this evening, we can always do it later. We can do it sooner, whatever the case might be. If the action taken this evening is to pick option 1 or option 2, then we will be in a position then to contact bond counsel, which will be Bass, Berry & Sims out of Knoxville, and we'll go ahead and start preparing the resolutions for the next county commission meeting for you at that time. Now, are there any questions about this? Yes, sir.
Just one kind of preliminary. Could you explain your role as a fiduciary of the county?
Yes.
In case there's questions about how you get paid, what's your interest?
Right. The question is, what's my gig in all this? I am a municipal advisor. I work for a company called Cumberland Securities. We were founded over 90 years ago, and our role is to serve as a municipal advisor to our clients, cities, counties, utility districts, special school districts, and the like. Before it became a federal law because of the financial crisis back in 2008, we held ourselves out as a fiduciary to our clients. And as quirky as it might sound, and I know some people will think, oh, I've heard this one before, we're supposed to look out for your best interest. It's the reason why we've been in business now for over 90 years. We sit on your side of the table. We're selling your debt to the public or to a local bank or to whoever's buying on the other end. We're always looking out for your best interest. We are also not transactional. I don't come in, sell my bonds, say, thanks for the money, we appreciate it, have a great day, and then I leave you all alone. I think that they can attest that we're a very high-touch municipal advisory firm. Because, as I said earlier, we care about how you do. We're always looking out for your best interest. How do I get paid? I get paid out of fees that we affiliate with the bond sale. Our fees, bond counsel fees, rating agency fees, which will be Standard & Poor's in this particular case. For preparation of all these sales documents, the preliminary official statement, the official statement, the notice of sale, advertising, all these types of things, all get rolled up into the cost. In today's market, and I'm going to use the word, we're going to when they actually sell bonds at a premium, they give you more money for the bonds than what you really anticipate. So to take, for example, if it was a $1,000 bond that I'm selling, someone might actually give you $1,075 for the bond. And you take that over a $15 million issue, you have excess funds. And of those funds, the first thing that most issuers do is they pay their debt service out of that. Or excuse me, the cost of issuance out of that. Then the next part that they do out of that, they can make a decision whether they want to use any other surplus funds that may be there. We don't know that today at the sale. But what would happen is they would actually take those funds and they'll turn around and either keep them and put them in the construction fund, or they simply give it back to the investor, and then instead of paying back $15 million, you actually pay some amount less than that over the course of the 20-year period. Worst case scenario, suppose we only give you $1,000 for your $1,000 bond, then we will reduce the construction fund by that amount. And again, so it keeps the money not having to come directly out of the county's treasury. It comes out of the bond proceeds. Is that good? Okay. Yes, sir.
I've got a second one.
Yes, sir.
If we were to vote to issue today or June 9th, I think you said our next meeting, what's the timeline for getting bonds issued once we turn y'all loose and approve?
If we did it in June 9th, we could probably meet the schedule that's been outlined there, okay? And we would, well, actually, yes, probably sell them, do it in June, sell them late July, early August, and close mid-September. Yes, sir. And then the money goes directly into the construction fund, and we would start worrying about how those proceeds get spent and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I asked this question the other night. and
Yes, ma'am.
Connor brought it back up. Can you tell everybody the cost, what percentage
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
cost
Yes.
of all those fees?
That's right. These costs will not exceed 2% of the bond issue, okay? For the cost of issuance. My fees, they'll probably be somewhere, of the 2%, will probably about 0.5%, probably even a little bit less than that. And the same will be true for bond counsel, and rating agencies will be considerably less than that. And that's you know, and when I'm giving you the not to exceed numbers.
John, you and I discussed this before, but September we get the funds, but if we accrue expenses between now and September, we can pay ourselves back out of the bond.
Yes, so that's exactly right. You remember I was talking about earlier about the spend down requirements, 10% the first 6 months? If the commissioner permits the mayor to go ahead and proceed with the program, he can start, you know, moving dirt and doing all the things and incurring expenses and paying those directly out of the, you know, out of the solid waste fund if he wants to. And then when we sell those bonds, then we can turn around and put the money in the construction fund and then reimburse those funds directly back to the solid waste fund, and that applies with the numbers that you're supposed to hit to be able to meet the arbitrage rules as dictated by the IRS. That is correct. Good point, thank you.
Johnny and I talked about it, Daisy and I talked about it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. We, granted, it does save you interest money doing 7.5 and 7.5, but it scares us to death because we might spend 7.5, but we might spend 10 that first 2 years, depending on, because you got 4 different projects rolling, and that's the figure we would prefer doing it in one shot, the 15 million, and that way, because I think it's $500,000 savings over the period, but it's also, the money's sitting there, so you would gain interest on your money sitting in the account.
And quite frankly, that is to your best benefit because A, if you look at the model again, interest rates, typically speaking, are going to be lower today than they are tomorrow. And that's, and I say that, then I also talk about inverted yield curves and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do that to you. The second thing is that if you only sell one time, Cumberland Securities only gets paid one time. So that's another good thing. You save some money on your cost of issuance. But please, I want you to feel confident in your ability, and so far I've heard nothing but the highest level of confidence that that money can be spent in a 2-year period. And again, if you don't get that 2-year period, or that spend down, it's not a terrible penalty. You simply get back your excess earnings.
That's on doing the 7.5.
No, even on the 15.
Oh, is it?
Yes, sir. It's even on the 15. You still have, you know, if you don't meet the 2-year spend down period. But then again, it could be, you know, it could be negligible. And also, again, also think about this. I'm talking about in today's markets. Rates might turn around and work against you as far as savings are concerned, where all of a sudden that arbitrage opportunity goes away. So don't bank all of your decisions based just on that. But just be aware that if you do that, keep that in the back of your mind, and if you do that, we will help you try to maximize those returns along the way.
So, tell everybody what the bond rating is of these that would be issued. What's the bond rating?
They will be a AA-, which is a high-rated, high-quality grade marketing. It is the same ones that you had back in 2020, and I did double check with S&P just recently, and you still have that. And we will still go through the grading process and give them the most latest and greatest information about the county. But by all accounts, the county continues to operate in the same fiscal type manner. Very conservative, not a lot of waste and excess in your budgets and that sort of thing. You keep your taxes low, and if there is a financial bump in the road, you all have the political will and the ability to make those necessary changes, either through budget cuts or revenue enhancements. I'm not going to use the other.
So what happens,
ma'am?
Tell everybody what's going to happen if interest rates go up.
If interest rates go up, after the bond sale or before the bond sale?
After.
After the bond sale, we don't care.
So it's going to remain the same.
They remain the same. After the day of the sale, which will be approximately 30 days before we actually close, those rates are good forever. as long as that bond issue, Series 2025, stays in place. Now, if you go back and refund it, then the rules reset back for that refund. And that also assumes that the rates, that rates have actually gone down enough or stay in a place where you actually make money doing the refunding. Could be out in 7 or 8 years from now. It does, or 6, 7, 8 years from now. It doesn't make any sense to do the refunding, so we just leave everything alone. Yes, sir.
This question is more for Johnny and the mayor. How long does this, if we do this construction period and get all this done, how long does it make our landfill sustainable for the future? Especially taking other entities' trash.
Build the cells like we're building now. We're building them narrow and against one another, so it gives you the same amount of airspace and less maintenance on the cells. I would say it's safe to say you got 30 to 40 years there if you build it like that. But now I understand if administration changes, that can change very well. So I wouldn't put that nowhere.
I thought about this last night. So this landfill started in 1987, and I called Johnny Day and confirmed we've used 45 acres in 38 years. And we've got 10 acres that we're working on, 9 acres behind it, and then 65 more acres. So we've got still got 80 acres that we know we can permit. That's not even starting anywhere else. So.
Hey, just make sure that the question was right. So this money is not 30 or 40 years. This 15 million.
No.
Okay.
No, but it sets us up to go to get to that 30 or 40 years.
So how long will this money take us?
Well, you got 5, you got 5, 7, 9 acre sale.
We've done this for
You're looking at probably 2 to 3 there. That's where it's gonna carry you.
7 to 8 years.
If you didn't 27 acres out, it could build you a lot more space, but there's nothing been closed on that municipal waste landfill. And it's gotta be closed. You gotta close some of it anyway. Now, whether it's 27 acres, you don't really have to, but I recommend that we do. Because as it says today, I still have the maintenance and keep it up. Where erosion control. Yeah.
I know in audit every year, that post-closure number is something that goes up and up. If we're capping a sale, that's part of the plan for this, what is that gonna do to that number?
That number will go down. It goes, that's the number we got robbed around this last week. If we close to 27 acres, it goes down to under $10 million. Now, you got sales open, so that number is going to bounce. Depending on how many sales you got open, what you're doing. If you, hopefully, like he said, Johnny and I's plan would be is every time we finish one and move to the next one, we've got the money behind it to close it out. Because as you go and you keep closing that out and capping them, then when you get to the end, all you've got is monitoring and at the end, so you don't need it. I think some of the counties is like $50,000 or $60,000 in closed landfills, and that's just for their monitoring. So your number goes way down as long as you. That's what's killing us is we've not closed anything out, so that number has stayed high. Yes, sir.
I mean, if we choose to go ahead with this seems like, talking about the bond issuance, the exact type of project that we in the past, other counties and even the state this year with their infrastructure projects do bond issuances to pay for, because I know the state, they just did, I think it was an extra $1 billion bond issuance this year, and the justification was costs are going up, we can spend the money now, get these projects done, and over inflation, we'll actually do better paying off interest, we'll save money than we would having to pay for these services at a later date. I do think, just personally for me, I know we've got a solid waste committee, I think it is important to hear whatever their recommendation is on this.
So I did forgot to leave that out, but we met in the 1st of April, and Justin, you correct me if I'm wrong, we discussed this. At that time, Johnny and I were estimating around 12 million. The Solid Waste Committee said go get 15 and be done with it, and it was unanimous. So they didn't want us to run short, and it fell out.
We didn't talk about specifics though. That was my concern in committee.
Right.
We didn't look at specifics and see the specific numbers and cash flows and those things.
mean, we've got time between now and June, we're not voting on this tonight.
No,
so
no, and-
I would love to see a meeting by solid waste committee between now and then to get
Okay.
just an official approval of this new formal plan.
We can do that. Yeah, all right, we'll schedule that. Yes, sir.
So I know the plan on this is 19 acres. You know, it's 10 acres for the new sale, and blasting out to 9. How much existing within that area could potentially be future permitted too, in addition to that? Is there anything else, or is that it?
No, so the 10 will close off the front end, and then when we go back to, Johnny, we go back to that 9 acre, that's when you start to go what we call going out to ridge, and you'll start out that ridge, and there's in that area, you'll get the 9 acre sale, which is what they were trying to permit when I first came into office, and it had some issues with it, with some cars. So one thing with blasting this rock out, it gives us rock to build the 10 acre sale, but it also gets rid of that karst area and alleviates a TDEC concern about some voids there. So it gets it down below that, which makes that cell lower, which makes it, you can put more trash in. There is we would call it a gully in the country, but there's a blue line stream, they like to call it there, that we got to mitigate, and that's not cheap. So that's part of part of that next plan in that. But once we get that blue line stream, then, like Johnny says, you're going to be deep and long, and your closure will get better because you're stacking back against yourself as you go out that hill, and you're just closing behind it.
Will you talk about?
That blue line stream he's talking about, you got the mitigation, and he can go. We can either buy from a big shed for it, or we can go somewhere else in the county, like down there to.
We talked about going down here to this park.
And do the mitigation there, fix the erosion down there.
I would rather spend our money in our county than write somebody in somewhere a check.
Will you talk about, I know you've got bridge construction listed on your list, but that is not something you want to do.
No. So to get to this 80-acre river bottom field down there that has really good soil and dirt, because you need really good dirt. Dirt is more important than cash on that field business, because if you don't got dirt, you better have cash, because you got to buy it. But anyways, that 80 acres down there is full of good dirt. Well, there's the Turkey Creek. Turkey Creek is right there. And so you got to get Corps approval on that. And so then they come in and they do all their archaeological studies, and then their little fishes and snail darters and crawfish and stuff like that. And we thought we'd get by with just putting maybe in a box covered some tiles in and out. And they said, well, we really don't want to do that. You know, we don't want you getting in the creek, or the risk of dirt getting in the creek. And so they came back and said, well, if you'll just put a bridge over it, it takes all the regulations off of it and changes it, and it's more expensive. I still ain't give up on that fight yet, but I did talk to a construction guy today, and he said they had the same issue in North Carolina on some of this Helene damage, and they had to actually go into a creek and dig a foot deeper, set a box cover, and then go back on the bottom of that box cover to put a foot of dirt so little fishies wouldn't scrape their belly on the bridge. Yeah. But that's why we got to do the bridge, to get the dirt. Anything else? Yes, sir.
You know my reservations with this.
Right.
I've expressed those to you.
Yeah.
One of those was cash flows. And you and I have talked about cash flows. Would you explain a little bit? I know we've had some new contracts. The revenue increase just even from those new contracts.
Yes.
And things that will help offset pay for this.
Yes. So I did do, and I go back to what Johnny was talking about earlier. Let me find my notes here, because I knew you were going to ask that question. So just with the new contracts that we will get signed and done this year, we'll increase our revenues $300,000 going forward. That's just on the small counties. That's not Sumner County, because Sumner County's they're working on diverting, getting some of their C&D out in a different direction. So if they pull all their C&D out, then they won't bring as much MSW to us, because that's part of our problem right now, is all that's mixed and it's making our space issues, and we're working with them to divert that and get that done. But once that's done, then the C&D that they pull out, the 300 or 400 tons a day, we can go get MSW at a higher price and offset that and be that much better, because when we were, for lack of better terms, we were blowing and going in 21, 22, 23, we were pushing $7.5 million, $7 million in revenue every year. Well, last year, Rasco had a fire at their transfer station, which made them curtail their hours, and they weren't bringing us enough. And that happened, the good Lord works things out, that happened when we needed to reduce our tonnage anyways to manage our space to the end, so. But once we get this and get our space limits back off, like I said, I had a guy, Johnny's had a group out of Kentucky, call him about 300 tons a day on just straight MSW. I talked to a guy back earlier, called me and said, can you take 1,000 tons a day? And I said, not right now. And I shot him a price, and he said, is that negotiable? And I said, well, if we get there, we'll talk, you know, but I priced that high, because that's what we want to do. I mean, it's getting higher and higher every day to bury your trash. And I think I told somebody, you asked today if this would sustain us long term, and I told you I believe that, you know, if knowing what we know right now, if we've been in business 38 years and we use 40 acres, well, if we just do 38 more years and get all that, that's 38 years. In my heart, I believe we'll be good in 38 years if good Lord's coming back, one of two, and if we win either way.
What are the three counties right now that we're taking trash from?
It's actually Wilson County. We do not take Lebanon City. They go to a different place. We take Travis County, all theirs. We take all the Macon counties. We take all the Macon counties except Lebanon City or Lafayette City and Red Bull, and we don't take their cities. We take all the county trash. We take all the Jackson County's trash and Sumner County. Sumner County being our biggest customer. And then on the C&D side, we work with Rockwood Recycling out of Lebanon. They bring us the biggest majority of their C&D, but they also trade out. They take our wood, our green wood, our tires, and they haul for us. So we've worked out a deal where we have a reduced tipping fee for them because they do so many different services for us. And we have other companies that we do that with.
Is there any of this near floodplain?
No. No, you can't. No.
I didn't think so, but
no,
nobody asked, so I asked the question.
No, that's we are a long way from the river, from where we are, and we can't even get. You can't get any further.
So the purpose of that, if our area eventually get that back to the cold storage, that they'll have that cold storage water storage. That's the purpose of getting that. We can't build there anymore.
No, that creek keeps us from getting there. You can't build a cell across the creek. Anybody else? Dan?
So one thing that I haven't seen in here, and it may be in this packet that was provided by Cumberland Securities, but I haven't seen a model, and maybe I just didn't look far enough, that actually shows some projections of what that money could yield after the issuance and the closure. And where I'm going with this, just so you kind of know where I'm heading, I'm looking at these expenses to revenue for the landfill. And you look at 2023, the difference between expenses and revenue was less than $400,000. And you did say that to service this, we're looking at 1.3 to 1.4 million once we have to start making those servicing payments. 2023 wasn't that long ago.
So let me answer that real quick. My mistake for not saying this earlier. So you remember I told you earlier we'd spend about $9 million in cash and good and sales. Yep. That's where it came. That's where it was. That wasn't operating expenses. True operating expenses are down around the $4 million mark of what it takes to run the landfill. So that's one thing that we wanted to do. We talked about this with solid waste and with budget, and I totally didn't do that now. We want to do what we do with general fund. We want to take this bond issue and call that a capital projects, and it's separate money from our operating money. We take the operating money revenue and service the debt, but it doesn't affect that budget, so you won't see that again.
You know, and I suppose the ultimate point that I wanted to make is, I shared Commissioner Mulder's concerns about, the cash flow. I'm looking at, the numbers, the cash flow. Also, I see the advantages of going all of the $15 million up front. There's obviously advantages there, but at the same time, and you may be, more familiar with this, but the Fed seems to be indicating that interest rates are going to be going down over the next, 6 months, year, and beyond, with the current climate of where things are heading right now. So that seems to be what the Fed is indicating. That being said, doing the the 7.5, the 7.5, and capitalizing on that interest gain, it may not be a bad option. I'm not sold on that.
Right.
I'm just.
And again, I'm 100. If I knew right now that $7.5 million was always going to spend in 2 years, I'm all for that. But if we bid 4 projects and the construction company's in, they've got 4 crews and they can start on 4 different projects, we're going to blow through $15 million in a hurry and be done. That's my only concern, Danny, is getting to year 2 and going, oh crap, we're short, and having to wait for that.
Your point is a good one. And if you were go back and we had something more a cataclysmic type of event in the economy like we had in 2008, 2009, where real interest rates really dropped down almost practically down to 0, then yes, I think that's a real issue. To give you a sense of scale, the last time we did a deal for Smith County was in 2020 for the refund of bonds. And the true interest cost back in 2020 was actually 50 basis points less than what it was today. And that was back in 2020 when we had another once-in-a-lifetime type event where rates started going down because people were really concerned. I think your concern is legitimate. And what they may be talking about in equity markets and those kinds of interest rates don't necessarily correlate in the municipal bond market too. So that, again, I didn't want to cloud things up. I think that's exactly what I did. I apologize.
Thank you.
Well, you also, I may be talking out of turn, but you said in our budget meeting that a lot of times what we're seeing now with the uncertainty in the market is driving people to the bond markets.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
Yeah, just
For Mr. Warner. That's fine. And you just correct me if I'm wrong in here, but between these 2 options, there's less interest on option 1. Is that not? I mean, based off the guy,
you are correct.
it's a little under $500,000 to get the money up front, and I'm sure that's part of that's because the discount for taking it up front versus the projection.
It's just interest. I make a very conservative type of assumptions for all my clients. I go close to what the market I think is today, and then I tack a little bit extra on in the future for rates to go up. Okay, so to answer your question, it's 2 things. The reason why it's less interest expense overall. Number 1 is we do it all today where theoretically the rates are supposed to be lower. And then number 2, if you remember, if we do the option 2, it's 25 and 27. So you've got another couple of years longer in principal and interest payments. Plus you got another, what is it? I put it in 25, 50 basis points more. So you had 2 things working against you.
As far as building projects that may require loans from the county over the next couple of years and what may be projected there, could the 15 million debt load that we're taking on affect our ability to get loans for other big projects in the county over the next couple of years with the debt to income?
These bonds are going to be sold general obligation using the full faith and credit of Smith County. Okay, but when you're talking to rating agencies and when you're talking about the investment community, they also realize that these particular bonds, as we're speaking tonight, $15 million, are going to be funded by something outside of property tax dollars. Okay, so it does not affect your capacity. The other thing is when you're dealing with public finance, when you're talking about issuers and their ability to tax their citizens, there is no such capacity because you have unlimited capacity, theoretically, not politically, to tax them whatever they want, whatever you want to be able to meet your obligations. And again, I'm very much tongue in cheek, okay? But that, so to answer your question, no, it does not. Everything else being the same should not affect that at all. Because, again, I mentioned earlier about the AA minus rating from 2020 and the recent check with the people in New York about your rating, about your rating now. It's because Smith County is as rock steady as they come in the way that you manage your money, the way you govern over your money, the way you manage your projects. That's a very strong thing for you going forward for for future projects.
Anybody else? All right, Cindy.
No, this may be more for Daisy. If we did this as far as cash flow, does this all roll into the 207, or do we create a separate fund, a project fund for these, for the revenues from this?
We went around on this today.
So I think you would keep it all in the 207 fund, but we're gonna set up a separate bank account, construction account. That way we make sure it's all separated from the bank.
We'll need to track it.
And we'll track it all separately by project, so that in the budget, you'll see a separate capital section for each project, where if you wanna know where we are spending on certain projects, we're gonna have your report for each one. And the cash flows you have in the back of the mayor's packet that he handed you, that does show us spending $15 million over 3 years. And, Danny, I did break out what was anticipated, operating expense versus what would be the additional spending for the capital. And, you know, these are just kind of a guess at how they would pay out. That could be totally different over 3 years.
Mayor.
Yes.
So, if we get done in 2 years like you're hoping, and we're at 12 million, and I know we talked about it the other night, but can we turn that 3 million back in, or do we have to wait till that 6 years?
Yeah, the money has to go to the construction fund, which would be for the solid waste. Yeah, that is correct.
But then, say in 2 years, we get done with the project, it costs us 12, we had 3 million left.
Yes, you can.
3 million, it can be turned back. Okay.
But we can also mitigate the stream and start building another cell too. Or do more closure.
That's a really great question. And that's one of the things that as we write the enabling resolution, it's not going to be specific for what we're going to be discussing tonight. We'll contemplate a wide area of projects that you can do within solid waste. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Are we sure we can do all this with 15 million?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we discussed estimates and projections, and like I said, we were at 12 million. Solid Waste said to go get 15, just be on the safe side.
So he's saying spend within 2 years. He's saying we can spend it within 3. Which one are we hoping to do?
Well, your cash flows are based on spending in 3.
Okay.
What we would do as soon as the bid's done, we'll sit down with the contractor and say, go hard because we got to spend this in 2 years.
Okay.
Anytime an issuer issues money, they have to have with the good intent of spending it off within a 3-year period. And I've got clients that have taken much longer than 3 years, and it's a lot of reporting between the issuer and the federal government, particularly the IRS, and that sort of thing. But the 2 years is specific for it to be able to capitalize on this arbitrage opportunity.
Right, that's what I want to do.
That's exactly right. Yes, sir. But she's right. I'm right.
Everybody's right.
But at the end of the day, she's always right.
Except those rare times she doesn't know.
Mayor, one more question. Okay, so at 3 years, say you're done, there's 3 million left. Will the county commission at that time vote to figure out where the funds, or will it be?
Well, we can, yeah, we can
Okay.
bring, we'll come, well, 3 years, if me or some, whoever's here, we will.
But they have to be within the construction funds. You can't divert it towards schools.
No, I'm saying, but he was saying maybe either we could return it or do another project.
Right.
That's
I want
correct.
the commission to be able to say, no, return it.
Yes,
Let's get this
that's
paid.
correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully, we're all here in 3 years and can make that decision, or 2. Thank you.
Are we sure that we have contractors available that have the capacity to do this within the time frame that we have?
We will bid for the lowest and best price.
Okay. I'm just saying, everybody else is building like crazy. I know this is probably gonna be a specialized market, so there's not gonna be a full, a full company directly at that.
I asked the question of a contractor that does a lot of work for us last week because T-Deg challenged me on that, and I sent a text and he said, I can be there next week if you need me. And I talked to him today.
That's my only concern of doing this, because I want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for failure, you know what I mean?
Well, the key is when it's bidded, it's going to be bid by people that specialize in landfills. I mean, not everybody does that.
Yeah.
Kind of off the record that he think that he could get it done in 2 years? Off the record.
Yeah, if he wins the bid. Anything else?
We also been talking with engineers on all this, our engineering firms. It's not like we just come up with these numbers and timelines and all that. We've been talking to him, and he's engineers several landfills, so I feel pretty confident in what he's told us. That's how y'all are getting these up tonight. We got,
And I'm gonna say, y'all don't understand how much of an asset this man is to Smith County, this landfill. I wouldn't want to do this without him and what he does for us and what he does every day. The stress he carries and getting things done. Johnny does a tremendous job. We got in this mess, and Johnny and I beat ourselves up, but we got in this mess because we didn't have the right engineers at the right time. That's how we got into this race to the end to get the space versus the new cell open. We didn't have the right one. We made a move. Promise has been great. They've worked with us. We got it done. And this 15 million, I know is, I hate borrowing money on our side, but this is something we pay for it. And I'll never want to be in the situation where we're running to the end to try to get a cell open before one closes again. I want to stay, if I'm blessed enough to get to stay here long term, I want to make sure that we take care of that, and it's a resource for Smith County, and we never have to worry about solid waste, because I talk to mayors across the state that don't have landfills, that don't have this deal. It's a problem. I mean, it's a problem. I mean, I was told, somebody read a study one time that within the next, 15, 20 years, that solid waste will cost you more than schools. Unless something comes up to fix it. And that's the blessing. Does anybody want a landfill in Smith County? No. Would I want to start one today? No. But we got one, so let's take advantage of it and protect ourselves and try to protect the best we can. And that's what I'm saying. If you sell it, you lose all that control, and I really don't want to go down that road. But, if we don't get to 15 million and we're stuck, then that's the next option, is we come back to you and go, hey, we got to sell it because we can't afford to go any further because we're as far as we can go. But I don't want to get in that situation. That's why I would ask that you, trust us to get this done. And like I said, once again, I'm going to reiterate it, not one tax dollar of Smith County citizens goes in that trash unless you buy something in Sumner County and it's that trash. Yeah, your tax dollars probably went there then. So. Any other questions? All right. If not, I will send out John's contact information in an email tomorrow to you. That way, if you have other questions for John, you can hit him. Because, like I said, he's a whole lot smarter on this than we are, or than I am. And we'll go from there. But thank you for that. Thank you, John. Thank you for driving. down to this now. Any other business before we take a motion to adjourn? There is a budget meeting right after this, I guess a short 5-10 minute recess.
7:30.
7:30, all right. 7:30 budget meeting. All right, all hearts and minds clear?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion second, all those in favor? Aye. You are adjourned, thank you.